So I know some of you have heard of Sylvia Rivera, a trans woman of Puerto Rican and Venezuelan descent who helped to lead the Stonewall riots in 1969 and then 1 year later helped to found the group that would trailblaze trans activism in New York City called STAR, or Street Transvestite Action Revolutionaries. But even if you knew that much already, you probably didn't know that Sylvia Rivera was a deeply religious person, and what's more, religion fueled her trans activism. Hi, I'm William Stell, and I'm a scholar of religion and sexuality in the United States. Here are 3 snapshots of Sylvia Rivera's religious life. First, Rivera took part in a ritual as a teenager that was designed to formalize her trans identity. She described this years later as a christening ceremony held by a Pentecostal preacher taking place in a Times Square apartment. She wore a white gown, the preacher poured holy water on her head, prayed over her, and through this ceremony, as Rivera described years later, she became Sylvia. Second, Sylvia Rivera was a lifelong practitioner of Lukumi, sometimes called Santeria. Lukumi is a religion of the African diaspora that emerged in Cuba and that centers on venerating the Orishas, spiritual intermediaries between God and humans. Now, like many trans women of the day, Rivera made her living in part through sex work. But rather than divorcing her sex work from her spirituality, Rivera developed religious practices, informed by Lukumi, that she and other trans women she lived with would perform every night before they went out to hustle. One of their prayers, as Rivera recalled, went, "Please don't let them see through the mask. Let us pass as women and save us from harm." Years later, Rivera said, "I have looked down the barrel of many a gun, but my saints protected me." Third and lastly, toward the end of her life, Rivera was baptized in the Metropolitan Community Church of Manhattan, where she ran the church's food pantry for a while. Today, that pantry is named in her honor, and Sylvia Rivera's ashes reside in the church. What I find so inspiring about Rivera's religious life is how she took all that she inherited, diverse concepts, practices, terminologies, and then with creativity and courage, she remolded them to fit her particular needs and desires. You can read more about Sylvia Rivera's religious life in Joseph Plaster's book, Kids on the Street, the source for much of this video's content, or in Ahmad Green Hayes' article, Street Evangelists and Transgender Saints, published by QTR, a journal in trans and queer studies in religion.